Which shoe is better to hoop in? The Nike Renew Elevate 3 or the Renew Elevate 2? So if you can't tell, I did break my hand, or I guess I fractured it in 2 spots. So that is going to kind of be reflected. I broke it after I did the Renew Elevate 3, but before the Renew Elevate 2. So some of the shots are going to kind of show that. But today we are going to be putting the second and the third models from the Renew Elevate shoe line head to head to see how they compare. But if this is your first time checking us out, feel free to drop a follow or subscribe wherever you're watching and give this video a like. We would greatly appreciate that. So I really won't even waste your time on the box today. I mean, both of these come in an orange box with some Nike Renew text on top. Then you're going to get some type of white pattern work in there too, but I mean, it is going to be pretty simple. And as for the pricing, the Renew Elevate 2 is going to retail for the low price of $80, which is going to land them on the much cheaper side, just on the scale for a basketball shoe. And the Renew Elevate 3s are actually going to be right there with them, only retailing for $80. So not bad at all, just as far as the price goes. So doing a quick rundown for the appearance on these shoes and starting off with the colorways, today we're checking out the Nike Renew Elevate 2 Triple Black versus the Renew Elevate 3 Plum Fog. So for this comparison video, I'll kind of start off talking about the Renew Elevate 2s, just how they look, play, feel. And then I'll move on to the 3s, kind of touch on where they're different and then where they're also going to be the same. So full disclosure, this was like the only colorway left on the market in my size whenever I was buying a pair to test out for the Renew Elevate 2s. I just don't really love all black shoes, especially whenever I'm reviewing them, because it makes certain aspects of the shoe just a little tougher to point out. But anyways, on the tongue, you're going to have like this strange sideways Nike logo, but I do like the design on the midsole though. And then on the heel, you're going to get some Nike Renew text just to kind of mark out the model's name. And then you're going to also get a Nike swoosh on the upper that has some like stitching around it. Honestly, I think that's a pretty cool look, but you know, this is going to be a cheaper shoe, so you can't just tell there aren't as many pieces to touch on as there would be on some other shoes. But now looking at the Renew Elevate 3s, as far as the appearance goes, Nike actually did switch some things up just between these two models here. I said this in my first impressions video for these, but I do think that this third model has a little bit of like a, you know, a KD12 look to it from the side. But looking at a few different spots, you're going to get some Renew text on the upper that's going to, or on the tongue, because I do actually like that a lot better than the kind of funky sideways logo on the Renew 2s. But I mean, as for the upper, you're going to get a Nike swoosh there kind of outlined, and it's going to morph into the midsole. And then built into the midsole, just beneath that Nike swoosh, is actually going to be that same Renew text that was on the heel for the Elevate 2s. And, you know, honestly, I do like the look, but these are two pretty simple models, which is what you can normally expect whenever you're going to be dealing with some more budget-friendly options. So now let's see how both of these shoes hold up on the court. So now getting into more of the materials and the performance side, and starting off with the cushioning on the Renew Elevate 2s. The midsole is actually made up of 2 different foams that are kind of fused together. The firmer and more supportive foam provides structure and stability. And then of course you are going to get some Nike Renew foam in there. And that's just to kind of, you know, target some of the areas where your foot's going to need a softer feel. And playing in these, I will say that you kind of get what you pay for here. Like, the cushioning doesn't feel quite as soft as some other models. And I didn't actually get to play in the first release from this, like the Renew Elevate 1 from this line, but I mean, you can just tell that there aren't going to be, you know, any additional layers of cushioning or anything like that in the 2s. You're not going to have any zoom units or anything in the forefoot. And you're not going to get like a super bouncy feel, but I mean, like I said, it's $80, so you can only really do so much. The collar is padded a little bit though, so that does make these a little bit more comfortable just in general. But I would say that cushioning is not going to like stand out on the Renew Elevate 2. But now switching it over to look at the Renew Elevate 3s, to no one's surprise, these are going to be working with some Nike Renew foam that is designed to be softer and just provide some impact absorption whenever you're hitting the ground. And I've actually been pretty impressed with how these feel so far, like especially whenever you are factoring in the price, of course, like I've been saying. The first time I put these on and tested them out outdoors, and that would have been like in that first impressions video like a couple weeks ago, I mean, I could just tell that this was going to be a little bit more comfortable model. I didn't need as much break-in time as I was kind of planning for after the 2s. And this is just a well-balanced shoe. Like, sometimes you can feel some cheaper models not have a ton of padding in the heel or something like that. And even sometimes, I mean, some of the models don't have padding anywhere. But I do think the Renew Elevate line just improved on cushioning for this year's third model. So I was happy to see that. For the materials and the support, the Nike Renew Elevate 2 is one of those shoes you can just kind of pick up until you aren't dealing with necessarily a high quality feel for the materials. And a lot of that is going to come from the lower retail price. But the upper is made out of a mesh material that is meant to give you a snug feel, just to help reduce foot-like movement while you're playing. And honestly, it does a pretty good job. You're gonna have some TPU overlays on there too. So as far as the support goes, that's a spot that I wasn't really expecting to see a whole lot, but I am kind of impressed. Like that wave that kind of looks like a hill that's built into the midsole, that rises up and acts as a brace for lateral containment. And then it also worked into the lacing system as this overlay that the laces actually feed through. And whenever you tighten that, that just helps eliminate movement for your foot, just to give you kind of a more secure feel. So support actually holds up well for a lesser quality shoe. But now switching it over to check out the Renew Elevate 3s, the upper is pretty much much going to be all mesh, so that is going to make this a very breathable model to play in, which is just going to help keep your foot cool. And the mesh design like this, I mean, that's always going to help shave some weight off of the shoe, which I do like that. But the upper does feel pretty thin. I mean, I will say your foot does move around pretty easily in there, but that made me a little bit nervous about the support. But I guess Nike did throw some stuff on there to this model to kind of help with that. So you're going to get those red straps just kind of built into the lacing system. And whenever you tighten those, I mean, just like on the Renew Elevate 2s, tightening that's going to help eliminate movement for your foot. And I always do like it whenever shoes do something like that. And as long as you're lacing your shoes up tight, you should be able to feel that piece kind of working there. Then Nike also placed a black overlay near the toes just to help keep your foot within the shoe on those side-to-side movements. And then in the back half, you're going to have like a heel counter. Then that's just going to help add to some extra stability. So, I mean, aside from the upper being a little bit thin, made out of a thinner material on the Renew Elevate 3, I was still kind of impressed with them on these categories. I guess at least nothing really stuck out to me in a bad way that was concerning. But one of my favorite parts about both of these models is just how light they are to play in. The Renew Elevate 2 weighs only 360 grams for a size 10.5. That would have actually kicked the shoe off my top 5 lightest basketball shoes in this video if I would have tested them out in time. And then the Renew Elevate 3s, they would have done the same thing. They're just going to be a touch heavier, weighing 376 grams for the same size. So I really do just love that aspect. And shoes in this light of a territory though, that's kind of where I start to look more at the support, just because you don't want a lighter shoe to be struggling with that section. But both of these models do have some nice support features to go along with them, so that was great to see. To finish off with traction, for the Renew Elevate 2s, Nike uses a wavy geometric tread pattern that is designed to give you multi-directional traction and control. And they definitely aren't bad, but I still would say traction probably isn't going to be the strongest part of this model. We have started to implement a squeak test. We've actually been getting some comments about stuff like that. So whenever I bring the music down in the backdrop here, you can hear them squeaking a little bit. So that does show you that there is going to be some grip on this model. And honestly, I wouldn't say that I've struggled or anything like that in the Renew Elevate 2. And the grooves are actually pretty deep, so I wouldn't call the cushioning bad on these. So I guess it just kind of depends on how your foot handles like the impact absorption, especially on, you know, whatever surface you're playing on. I could actually see this model working for outdoors. But now looking at the Renew Elevate 3s, this is going to have a similar setup to the 2s, but it's still going to be slightly different. You're going to get some wavy lines near the toe, but in the ball of your foot is going to be more of a circular pattern. I guess the whole idea behind that was to make it a little bit easier whenever you're pivoting or just spinning. And honestly, the traction does play pretty nice for this model. I mean, I still don't expect anything crazy, and I wasn't able to do a squeak test on this one, but there is still going to be some bite. They do kind of collect dust a little bit because of that, but honestly, I've been pretty impressed with how they've been playing so far. And the grooves are actually pretty thick, so pairing that with the nice cushioning, that would make this a pretty solid option outdoors to hoop in. But to finish off with sizing, I went true to size on both of these models. You're going to have a little bit of extra room for your toes just in the 3s, comparing those to the 2s, but the width is pretty normal, so nothing to worry about there. So for the final ratings and starting off with the appearance, I can't sit here and act like I'm in love with either of these models. I don't dislike them, so I'm just going to start off with a tie. For cushioning, both of these shoes have that Nike Renew foam technology, but like I was saying, it does seem to play a little bit softer and just feel better on the Renew Elevate 3s, so I'll start off with the 3s here. For materials, you are going to have a lot of the same stuff being used, mesh upper, overlays on both, so this is going to be an easy tie. Then as for the support, with two shoes as light as this, I was glad to see some additional pieces thrown on there. The upper on the 2s does feel a little bit more firm, but I mean, you do have those straps on the 3s, plus a little outrigger there to kind of, you know, just help brace your foot. So I'll stay with the tie here again. And then to finish off with traction, these are really close, but I do think the Renew Elevate 3s are going to be slightly better. Feels like they have just a little bit more bite overall, so I am going to end up going with the Nike Renew Elevate 3 as the better shoe to hoop in. And this is a pretty close comparison. Like, they do play really similar. The traction is really close to being equal, but the spot that I do feel the most change between these two models is definitely going to be the cushioning. The 3s do feel a little bit softer and just, you know, kind of more padded, but I mean, they're going to be super light models to play in. I did love that. And with the retail tag only set for $80, that's not bad at all. So this is going to be some nice models to hoop in, especially if you're kind of looking for something to play in outdoors. Thank you guys for taking some time to watch. If you're interested in buying the Nike Renew Elevate 3 and you want to support our channel, just click the link here on screen, or you have links for both shoes down below or in our bio, so feel free to check that out. But until next review, I'm Landon from Shoewear. Peace.